your body speaks to you in many different ways, whether you realize it or not. From mood swings to anxiety and panic attacks, your body is constantly trying to tell you its internal state. Whenever you experience certain emotions or find yourself behaving in odd ways, it's like your body is waving a little red flag, signaling that there's something off in your inner world. In this video, we will learn what changes occur in your brain after a traumatic event, and by the end of it, you will learn what signs does your body gives you to indicate there is a problem to solve. Imagine a young girl called Emily. When she was 7, her family decided to go on a road trip through the Swiss Alps. Both parents and her little brother Jake were very happy and relaxed, looking at the impressive blue lakes while they were going through the mountains. Suddenly, after a turn, they hit a bus that was driving down the lane. The crash was quite bad, but fortunately, everybody was physically okay. After the accident, they continued their trip and came back home. At first, nothing seemed to change for them, and time passed by until she was 19. In college, Emily was a normal girl, scoring good grades and having a great time with her friends. But every time they invited her for a ride through the nearby mountains, Emily started to feel very tense. Her heart rate would jump, and overall she would become numb and experience headaches, up until the point of preferring to stay at home. She didn't remember the accident, but her body did. What Emily was feeling was her reptilian brain trying to keep her alive by telling her to stay away from any danger, because her body had registered the accident and associated cars with danger. We can find the same pattern. It doesn't matter what the event is, whether it's a car crash, bullies at school, or difficult parents. The part of the brain in charge of keeping you safe is activated, and it will send signals to avoid repeating the experience registered as dangerous or unpleasant. In the case of Emily, her response to the car accident resulted in a state of anxiety and fear whenever she faced similar situations. This stems from the reptilian brain, responsible for survival instincts, which takes over and overrides rational thought in traumatized people. Consequently, she couldn't respond rationally to triggering situations, even though her neocortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, suggested otherwise. Trauma carries physical and psychological manifestations that originate from being stuck in a state of sympathetic activation of fight, flee, or flight responses. These states involve not only the central and peripheral nervous systems, but also the neuroendocrine system, which is in charge of the hormones, and the immune system that protects us against viruses and bacteria. People affected by post-traumatic stress disorders can have responses which are physical symptoms like digestive and immune diseases. For example, they could be more likely to get the flu, or they have suddenly to go to the toilet during an uncomfortable situation. In Emily's case, the physical manifestation associated with the traumatic car accident is chronic headaches. Even though she was physically unharmed in the accident, the emotional distress and fear she experienced during the collision left a lasting impact on her body. As a result, she developed recurring migraines that persisted long after the incident. The stress and anxiety triggered by memories of the accident likely contributed to the chronic nature of her headaches. Despite not consciously remembering the traumatic event, her body's response through physical symptoms served as a clear indication of the unresolved emotional trauma she carried. Sometimes the responses are rather emotional. For example, experiencing intense rage and suddenly crying, or feeling that your emotions are overflowing and you are unable to control and regulate them. Another cue is feeling disconnected from oneself and having difficult interpersonal relationships. The emotional response associated with Emily's car accident is emotional numbness and a sense of disconnection from her own feelings. As a coping mechanism, her mind may have unconsciously suppressed the memories and emotions related to the accident to protect her from overwhelming distress. As a result, she might find it difficult to access and express her emotions fully, leading to a sense of emptiness and detachment from herself. Emily might struggle to feel joy, sadness, or even anger, as her emotional range becomes limited due to the trauma's psychological impact. This emotional manifestation of numbness and disconnection can hinder her ability to form deep connections with others and affect her overall well-being. Apart from physical and emotional responses, the reactions can also be behavioral. For example, being hypervigilant and extremely reactive, or very tense and anxious. It is also common that you may feel like an outsider in your own body. Many people also look for self-soothe by drinking in excess or gambling. Generally addictive behaviors tell us under the surface that something is off with our inner self. As you might have noticed already, the behavior that Emily adopted was to stay at home and avoid hanging out in her friend's car. It is completely possible to learn how to manage these reactions. Visiting a psychologist or trauma specialist can guide you and offer you a range of options to deal with the consequences and especially with the origin of these. However, taking an active role is very important, and being in charge of your mind and owning your body are essential factors that will help you to go through it better. Mental health experts know a range of tools that are very effective to take control of the mind and body. In our next video, we will be telling what these tools are and why they work so you can explore and decide what it's best to use in your case.